The next item on the agenda is, again, Mr. Smith's to address. So now that he's back, we'll move on to superintendent's recommendations and reports. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Birdie. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. Martin to cover the items listed under Personnel Professional.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Birding and members of the board, I have several items for you this evening under Personnel Professional. Item number 1, resignation, letter A. I do want to mention this person. It's a retirement at the end of the year. Brenda Loggle has been a speech pathologist in our district for 29 years. She's had 32 years in education, and she's really going to be missed. She's been absolutely awesome, not only with the students, but with fellow staff members, and we will really, really very much miss her. Item number 2, extracurricular resignation, letter A. Item number 3, unpaid leave of absence, letters A through C. Item 4, employment, letter A, extracurriculars for the 2021 school year. Letter B, an EL tutor for the current school year. Letter C, a home instructor for the current school year. And letter D, a substitute teacher for the current school year. That concludes the items I have for you this evening under Personnel Professional.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Shorter and Mr. Begley, any questions or comments from the board? Okay, Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundrum?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Birdie, members of the board, I do have several items for your consideration under Personnel Support. Letter B, number 1, resignations, letters A through D. Number 2, unpaid leave of absence, letters A through C. And number 3, employment, letters A through E. And that concludes the items I have for your consideration under Personnel Support.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved. Second.
I heard Mrs. Gundrum and Mrs. Shorter. Any questions or comments? Okay, Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Gundrum?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Motion passes.